This has been a dramatic day, just as Hamas was expected to deliver its answer to the Israeli proposal for a hostage release and ceasefire. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Israel to tell the Israeli officials, among other things, that evacuating the civilians from Rafah will take a very long time. At the same time, we see the possibility that the Palestinians have a new patron in Saudi Arabia, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Will Saudi Arabia be taking the place of the Palestinian Authority? Let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 208th day of Israel's war with Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and apparently thousands of brainwashed university students as well. During his visit, which is the 8th since the outbreak of this war, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is expected to visit the port of Ashdod, which is an important hub for the transfer of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Speaking to reporters about the recent negotiations over the release of hostages and a possible ceasefire, he said Israel has made a serious offer and now it's up to Hamas. Enough of the postponements, enough of the excuses. It's time for Hamas to act. However, he also told Israeli officials that, in our opinion, and from what we have seen, the plan to evacuate the citizens from Rafah will take longer than you think it will take. Elsewhere, Egyptian sources said that an Israeli delegation that included senior officials from the Shin Bet, the IDF, and Mossad arrived in Cairo on the night between Tuesday and Wednesday for a short and urgent visit that lasted about 3 hours. The sources said that the discussion included a briefing on the results of Egypt's talks with Hamas, including demands that Hamas has made for revisions to the Israeli offer. However, Hamas indicated it has more revisions and their final counter-proposal will likely be presented at the end of this week. In a related story, US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin told reporters this week that we have doubts about the ability of the Israelis to evacuate all the civilians from Rafah. If Israel invades Rafah without a plan to protect the civilians, we will resist, and the president will determine the consequences. Additionally, a statement from the White House said, "We do not want to see a major invasion of Rafah that would endanger the lives of more than 1 million people." Sources in the Biden administration say that the discussions with Israel on the Rafah issue have not yet ended, and there are still quite a few issues that remain open. Both US and Israeli officials have indicated that further discussions are necessary, building on the recent talks held with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and his Israeli counterparts. The US position is understandable given the intense international pressure as well as domestic pressure on the United States against an operation in Rafah. To this can be added domestic pressure in Israel to find a way to return the remaining hostages. It's a very complicated situation for everyone. However, in the midst of all this pressure, it's important to point out that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made it clear to the families of the hostages and bereaved families when he met with them on Tuesday that the IDF will enter Rafah and eliminate the Hamas battalions there with or without a deal. Let me tell you what I think about all of this. Hamas is a terrorist organization without standards of human decency, no ethics, and no respect for human life. Like any terrorist organization, its goal is to sow fear, terror, war, and gain power. Hamas says in its propaganda that it cares about the Palestinian people, but they don't. Many Westerners, especially young and naive university students, don't understand that. But here in the Middle East, there are many who do. They include Tariq Hamid, an influential journalist with close ties to Saudi royal family, who wrote in the newspaper El Sharak El Awsat on Wednesday that the map has changed. Gaza has been destroyed. Hamas is mainly looking for a way to save its leaders in the Strip and beyond. This is one of many indications we can see that Saudi Arabia is preparing to collect some of the spoils from this war Israel has fought against Hamas in Gaza. The losses Hamas has suffered can translate into gains for the Palestinian Authority, which administers the Palestinian areas of Judea and Samaria, known in some places as the West Bank. Saudi Arabia is sending signals that it would like to increase its support for the Palestinian Authority to push back against Iran's support for Hamas. This could be part of a larger agreement that would also see Israel and Saudi Arabia normalizing diplomatic relations, which would probably be followed by normalization agreements with several other Muslim countries in this region. Blinken and Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan spoke in Riyadh this week, saying that this grand bargain is very close to becoming a reality, as most of the details have already been finalized. We here at TBN Israel will continue to watch these developments and keep our viewers, you, informed and give the truth its proper place. If you want to be sure to never miss any updates, please take a minute to click on the follow button, subscribe to this YouTube channel, spread the truth together with us, share our videos on social media, and with anyone who wants to know the truth. Getting back to our main story, I have to say that this situation is very complicated. The main question that arises for me is whether Israel will be able to both get a deal to release the hostages as well as carry out an operation in Rafah, the last bastion of Hamas. On the one hand, it's clear that if there is a deal, it will include the postponement of the operation in Rafah, possibly an indefinite postponement. It is already a matter of negotiations and the reality on the ground, but it is clear that this will be the immediate result. On the other hand, the ceasefire agreement is for 40 days. So at the end of this time, will the IDF be sent into Rafah to finish off the last of Hamas holdouts? After all, a lot can happen in 40 days, and there is still a very volatile situation on the northern border with Lebanon. This is not the only volatile situation Israel faces. There is increasing diplomatic pressure on Israel to avoid an operation in Rafah, and some of that pressure is coming from Israel's closest friends and allies in Europe. Another question is, will the 40-day ceasefire change the IDF's ability to enter Rafah? Probably not. It might give Hamas more time to train and prepare for a fight, and so the IDF will face a tougher battle if we have to fight later rather than now. But this can be overcome, and the IDF's ability to enter Rafah will not be compromised. On the other hand, a normalization agreement with Saudi Arabia, which would likely be quickly followed by a similar agreement with Indonesia and Malaysia, as well as other Muslim-majority countries, would be a strategic game-changer for Israel. It's difficult to believe now, but before the Hamas attacks on October 7th, we were very close to such an agreement. Now that the war is drawing near to an endgame, the issue is back on the table, and Israel has also emerged from this war with some clear red lines for everyone, both our friends and our enemies, to see. In my opinion, it is a good idea to proceed with this American plan, and I'm hopeful that both Israel and the Palestinians will reap the benefits of normalization with our neighbors, but Hamas must not be allowed to survive. Hamas must be completely stamped out and eliminated as a military force in the Gaza Strip and as a controlling entity in the Palestinian Authority. Otherwise, we'll have problems with them again and again in the future. Please take an active part in spreading the truth with us. Support our work, donate to us if you want to see additional videos by clicking the link below or by going to our website at www.tbn.org/Israel. Speaking of the battle between truth and lies, the anti-Israel protests at American universities continue to show the world how easy it is to manipulate young minds who don't know the truth and maybe aren't interested in hearing it. Students at Columbia University broke into a campus building this week and barricaded themselves inside. Campus administration attempted to negotiate with them, but they refused all efforts at reconciliation, forcing the New York Police Department to enter the building and forcibly remove them. Over 100 students and others were arrested, and many of them will likely be expelled from the university. This is a good place to remind everyone that the British newspaper Daily Mail has reported that one of the pro-Palestinian organizations at the Columbia University received funding of over $3 million a year from charities related to Hamas. You've heard about these protests at universities, and if you're like me, you probably feel some compassion for these young students who are being manipulated and brainwashed by people who don't care about them at all, but just want to use them as a weapon against Israel. The way to help them and Israel is by spreading the truth so that the lies can be exposed. So please continue to follow and subscribe to this YouTube channel. It really helps us reach more people, and share our videos with your friends and people you may know and that care about the situation. On that note, we need to remember the old saying that money makes the world go round. And in the case of Hamas, they have many sources of income. Through an ancient Middle East custom called hawla, money flows into the Gaza Strip and serves as the engine of the terror machine. So how do you catch it before it becomes a deadly weapon? The money comes from many countries, including Iran, Turkey, and Lebanon. It can be disguised as innocent trade items, and it is also moved through legitimate agencies, including the Palestinian Authority, which still pays salaries and pensions to many residents of the Gaza Strip. This includes the families of martyrs who were killed while carrying out terrorist attacks against the Israelis. In order to disrupt this flow of money to Hamas, the IDF has moved against several money changers that are active in the military wing of Hamas, as well as 2 money changer officers in the Gaza Strip. The most prominent of these terrorist financiers who were eliminated in these operations was Sabahi Perona, who was involved in the transfer of tens of millions of dollars to Hamas over the years. Another financial operative who was eliminated was Muhammad Gauda, who was responsible for smuggling weapons, ammunition, and materials for manufacturing rockets into the Gaza Strip. During the war, he took a central part in many money transfers from different exchangers in the Gaza Strip, collected the funds, and distributed them to military operatives. Another terrorist financier was eliminated just last week, and his name was Netzer Yaakov Gaber Natzer. He formerly served as the manager of the Even Chaldon money changers in Rafah, as well as helping the Al-Ofrak exchange, a declared terrorist organization, to transfer money for Hamas through Rafah. These men won't be transferring money to Hamas anymore, but there are many others, and these money exchangers operate through methods that may appear to be legitimate. They have offices throughout the Gaza Strip where customers can convert currency and carry out other activities necessary for the modern economy. But most of their profits go to terrorism, and that's a very big problem. But the financial arena, as mentioned, crosses geographical borders and really does not end only in the Gaza Strip. The Mossad and the Shin Bet Israeli security services also walk across geographical borders, and Hamas has discovered to their surprise that many of their sources of income have already been shut down at the source. To shut down Hamas permanently, the income streams flowing into it must be closed once and for all, and thus the economic campaign against Hamas is gaining momentum. Please continue to follow and share with us. Continue to pray for the peace of Israel, the safety of the IDF soldiers, the citizens of Israel, and the civilian population of the Gaza Strip that are being held as captives by Hamas during this war. The goal is to destroy Hamas, but this is part of a bigger war, a war between good and evil, a spiritual war, and we need your help in prayer. So please join us in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.